All right, well, we're going to kick it off. And if you aren't aware, we're in a leaky building syndrome here in Australia. So I think that's why we're all here, because we are aware of it. And so we've been lucky enough to have the presence of the waterproofing, the chair of the Waterproofing Membranes Association of New Zealand, to come over and talk about the history over there, what's happened there, and how it's very similar to what we're seeing over here in Australia. So I'll bring up Chris in a sec. So we're just going to run through, we actually have known about this problem for quite some time. So you see up there, top left-hand corner, in 2010, the ABC reported of respondents in buildings built since 2000, their buildings were significantly defective, well, they were significant, all of the issues. And then as we go through time, so a lot of these jobs here, or these three here, are actually clients that I've dealt with. 4 years old, this property, class 1 building, volume house. 4 years old, that property, both bathrooms rectified, significant mould, which, you know, we're still going to, we're going to hear from Tim Law, who's a professor on mould and the studying for condensation. So we're going to hear about some of the severity related to that. Class 2 apartment building here, 18 months old, significant water ingress through the balcony. This house here, ticking time bomb, 0405, triple storey townhouse in Ascot Vale. No warranty left, no warranty claim from the insurance, no builder's warranty left, 300 grand we estimate to repair her house. And then obviously we're familiar with Ross Taylor and what he's been doing up in New South Wales. So we're starting to capture some data. So in 2019, I've caught up with Dr. Nicole Johnson on regular occasions. She was engaged to, or Deakin Uni, in a joint study with Griffith University up in Sydney, where it did a combined audit on 212 buildings across the eastern seaboard to investigate combustible cladding. Non-biased study, what they found was that waterproofing defects were much more significant and deep-seated. So I think you've got a crisis in this country. I don't want to downplay the issue in relation to combustible cladding, but I think water penetration issues in buildings are much, much bigger. I want you to put your hand up if you know anyone that's had a leaky building issue. Yeah. So that was over, for those of you who couldn't see what I could see, over 85% of the room. We had 330 up in Parramatta. Obviously there's a bit more heat going on up in New South Wales, so there's a bit more urgency to get up to speed with what's coming in. I think there was 5 hands that stayed down. So everyone over the coming years is going to become very familiar with this if you're not presently. So scale of the problem, unknown. Nobody keeps a record of this stuff. So that was back in 2017 by Bill Randolph. So up until, so I did this slide a little while ago. It's a little bit hard to get the data now because of COVID, but I am hearing that the building industry has not slowed down at all. In 20 years, 3.5 million houses and nearly 700 apartments is what we've built. I've been doing audits in the class 1 sector, in the volume sector as well, and there hasn't been one house that would pass an audit. And we're building them quicker than you can repair them. So if we have a look at the VMIA, so the Victoria Managed Insurance Authority, some data coming out of them last year. Waterproofing ranked 4th in the most claimed defect. Then when we have a look at the cost, so by occurrence, so plumbing failure is the highest, and we've got waterproofing. Then we see waterproofing 4 times more expensive than any other defect to repair. $28 million a year that they're paying out on claims. And if you've put a claim in with the VMIA, you probably know it's not the easiest one to get over the line. So now we're capturing data. We can start estimating the costs of what it's going to cost us over the coming decades. With what we're doing, we're still building incorrectly for a period of years. That will still flow on because we need to improve the education. So we're going to see this problem still grow bigger and longer before we start to turn the cycle. So David Chandler, I rate what David's done. There's been some collateral damage along the way, but you know what? As an industry, we've needed a kick in the arse. We've been doing the same thing, sweeping it under the rug for a long period of time. It'll be right, no problem. Around 70% of major building defects are related to waterproofing issues. So we have a look there. Waterproofing ranks a lot higher than what we see in fire safety systems. In terms of what it's costing OCs, they're now looking at costs of, on average, over 300 grand per building. That's not all related to waterproofing, but waterproofing does hold a significant component of that. Financial and emotional costs. Mascot Towers. Who's familiar with Mascot Towers down here in Victoria? Hands up for yes. Quite a few. So I believe it's been settled now after 3 years, I believe. Some other research that I came across was from an article from ABC Japan, where Kevin Anderson was quoted as saying that the relocation costs for the tenants alone were up to $7 million. Who's paying for that? We are. Yeah? You can see some significant structural cracking down in the basement. There's a slide in my upcoming presentation further in the day. Very prominent building in Melbourne, exactly the same signs of defects. Significant issues. And we'd all know the building if you live here in Melbourne. So the Owners Corp was told 38 mil to fix the building, which would blow out to $64 million because they would need to get a loan in order to cover the costs. One owner bought the 2-bedroom apartment for 950 grand just months before he was told he had to move out. The sale, they supported the sale because it was a no-win scenario for a lot of the homeowners. 900K in the red, bankrupt. So would you say now that buying the great Australian dream is the Australian dream anymore? For a lot of people, nightmare. We haven't learnt from other countries' mistakes. Leaky condo syndrome in Canada back in the 80s, 70,000 condos. Estimated cost of the situation back then was 3 to 5 billion. This photo was a photo that I captured out of a news article of them still repairing the buildings now. And it was from last year. Miami building collapse. Links to structural defects related to below-grade waterproofing, exposing the steel reinforcement, which rusted out due to the salt in the air being right on the seafront. 55 floors. I'm not sure on the number who died. What I'm hearing is there's a possibility this could happen here. Great Australian dream or nightmare?